Morning. Can you see me? Okay, I'm going to start the lesson and I'm going to share with you today about what you need to know about HDB procedures and some of the things that you may know, but some changes along the way. So I will go very quickly for the very start, and at the end of the summary class, I will share more on the detail. So bear with me. If I go too fast, bear with me because the front part is very boring because it's a procedures and documentation. So I will skip a bit, all right? So I will start now. Just hold on. Now, basically this Positive Monday, basically we want you all to also know first and foremost your customer need, then how you as an individual, as an agent, to able to provide a professional financial advisor and also advice to them. And obviously through all this process, you will learn to be more capable and how to selling a house like HDB to other property, like for example, selling a HDB, buying a condo, selling a HDB, buying a next HDB resale. So these are things that you learn along the way, but I can't teach or share with you today completely everything, but I can touch and go. But if in detail you want to learn, you have to attend a more comprehensive training and probably some hands-on on the job training. All right, so obviously all this training will enhance your performance and also you close more sales. And you will face with some challenges along the way, but you learn on the job itself, and there are mentors and people to guide you along the way. All right. Now, the four very important pages in your OTP is, remember, maybe you want to take a picture of this, page 1, 2, 4, 8 in your OTP HDB. Now, in the very beginning, the OTP page 1 telling you about the date, the price, the sellers, and the buyer. These are all very important detail in the page 1 itself. So you have to not make mistake. Now, one silly mistake that many agents like to do is that they leave the option date open and don't put it in. That is wrong, because without the option date, that one, it is not valid document. So you thought that it's not important. It's the most important date, because you can get sued by your seller and buyer when they complain to CA that you don't have the option date. So take notes of this. Option date should not leave it open at all, right? Next is that the page 2 basically tell you about the OTP exercise fee, how much you want the buyer to pay you when they want to confirm to buy. So obviously they're given 21 days to exercise that option. So you have to state in page 2, all right, in the OTP, normally it's 4,000, all right, but so you want to pay 500, 100, whichever, all right, but I wouldn't want to offer a house for sales for exercise fee only $500 or $100. So think about it. Now, page 4 basically tell you after the buyer exercise the option, when you want to submit to HDB, right? The current normal practice is about 7 to 14 days. So if you are doing contra or whatever, you may want to put 30 days, all right? But if you are doing a normal transaction, 7 to 14 days is good enough. That one is considered as calendar day. That means if I say that I exercise on Monday, I have to submit it by next Monday. All right, is that clear so far? Now, next is that the most very important in this whole OTP is page H, where the seller grant the option to the buyer. Without the seller's signature, this option totally not valid at all. Now, during this period of time, during the COVID-19, many of them cannot sign the documents in the presence of sellers or buyer. But now at this moment, in phase 2, you are allowed to not more than 5 people. You can be the witness. If it's not, the seller have to ask the family member to be witness. So if you are only able to sign the witness if you are really present, in the presence of your buyer, in the presence of the seller. Now, in the event, if this thing need to be signed overseas, then they need to find the notary publics or commission of oath under the Singapore Embassy. All right, so these are, I hope clearly I explained to you, are important. I stop by. The rest I'm going to skip very fast. All right, let's go on. Now, the key factor of success for HDB resale is the timeline and procedure. You must know them very well. All right, later on I'll cover a bit for you. Now, the essential financial planning and selling of and buying is also equally important, because when the seller sells, he wants to know how much sales proceeds that he will collect. And the buyer also know how much commitment am I going to enter into. What is my installment plan, this and that. Now, all these are provided in the HDB portal, where the buyer and seller are able to find out. Now, bear in mind, as an agent, if you are not able to provide this service before they sell and buy, why do they need an agent? As such, basically the new portal under the HDB resale portal 2018, they eliminate agent actually. That means buyer and seller can do it DIY without you and me. So I think it's an added service, an important service while you are there. So make sure that you are very familiar with the timeline, the procedure, and how to sell and buy at the same time, and do their financial plan properly. All right. Now, the key factors of success of HDB policy, timeline, and documentation and procedure, which I'm going to cover a bit very quickly. All right. Now, the procedures and documentation of handling a HDB transaction, I'm going to cover here now. Now, the objective basically is to recognize and comply with the current rules and regulations of HDB purchase and sales. As you know that now the HDB have introduced the resale portal 2018. I would advise all agents to go through it and read through it yourself. All right. If you do not know this resale portal 2018, then I think you are not ready for it. Right. Then go and seek help. Look for a manager. Look for anybody to go through this procedure with you once at least. Now, the other basic thing you need to know is the eligibility requirement for both seller and buyer. When can they sell? When can they buy? How much do they need before they can buy? So all these things you need to know. The other thing is the timeline. You need to know. Now, also you need to be competent to enter into a contract using a HDB option to purchase, which I mentioned earlier on. The page 1, page 2, page 4, page 8 are the most important, but doesn't mean the rest is not important. You also need to be familiarized with them. Go through the procedures, how you go into enter into a contract. All right, I'm going to cover this a bit more in the summary page at the last of it, and there are some FAQ for you so that to familiarize this whole procedures. All right. Now I'm going to touch this, as I said earlier on, very quickly. The eligibility for selling and buying a resale flat. Now MOP is calculated based on the date of the resale completion. All right, seller collect their keys date, or during those periods there is non-occupied. For example, the flat is fully rent out, but room rental will be considered inside the MOP. All right, so I'm going to skip here, all right, quickly. So in the past, just to know some of the history, in the past where they started off this MOP, back in the days on the early years in 2010, all right, where you have bank loan, HDB loan, it takes 2.5 years and 1 year. And subsequently, the application date between 5th of March to 29th, sorry, 5th of March to 29th of March, the MOP become 3 years. But today, after the 30th of August 2010, all right, that is 10 years ago, the MOP is all 5 years, regardless whether you take loan, no loan, you have HDB loan, bank loan, or BTO, all are 5 years. So far clear? All right, let's move on. Now, another one is you have to take note is under the SER, that means SIR. The application, it could be, the MOP is 7 years. Now, the 7 year calculate from the day that you book the flat or select the flat, that is 7 years. But the day you collect the key and occupy is 5 years. So those who are under SIR, just take note about it. All right. Just a minute. Now, some of these criteria, the buyer criteria, first of all, the family, age, and a family neutral, you need to know. Now, there are some special conditions you also need to take note about them, all right? But I'm not going to elaborate on this itself. The public's basically scheme, they have this. First of all, the spouse and children, parents and siblings, all this, go and read through them. The most common one are fiancé and fiancée scheme, all right? Which a lot of young couple want to buy. So you must be familiar with them. The intention to get married, but they haven't went for ROM. They still can buy, but they need to submit their documents, all right? When collecting the key, they need to be showing that they're already ROM, or they have a letter to show from the ROM they are going to register on certain day, and HDB will accept it, all right? Now, there are also a very common one, I maybe just highlight here, where you have foreign spouse, all right? A Singaporean, a single, 35 and above, have a foreign spouse, or even below 35, all right? As long as they got married, they got a marriage cert, they can produce, even she's 21, then it's a foreign spouse, they still can buy, all right? As long as one of them is Singaporean. Now, for joint single, they are 35 and above, except for those who are widow or orphan, then 21 years old should be okay, all right? I mentioned earlier on the foreign spouse earlier on, all right? But the foreign spouse will not be able to register as a owner. They can register as a essential occupier under the foreign spouse scheme, all right? They are, okay, I'm going to skip a bit faster over here, all right? Obviously, there are some conversion scheme from 3-room, you buy over your neighbor unit, it become a bigger, like 2-3 room combined together, become a executive flat. All right, this one subject to HDB approval again. All right. Now, another thing that you need to know very commonly is called the EIP, Integration Program, or SPL quota. So if you are Singaporean, obviously you can sell to Singaporean or even to SPR, especially for Malaysian PR, easily can buy. But all PR need to at least 3 years before they can buy a HDB flat. All right. So don't be overexcited. Oh, once your client become a PR, you go and bring them to buy. They cannot buy. Only wait for 3 years later. All right. This one you go through and read up yourself. If you need more information, you can come and see me anytime. I'm on the 9th floor. All right. So, okay, this one I also let you read through again. All right, there are 2 types of quota that you need to go through. Right. Now, this resale portal, basically, the HDB, when they introduced in 2018, was very interesting. Their intention is to eliminate all agents, just for your information. That's why everything they can do DIY on the computer using the resale portal itself. So, basically, they will qualify them automatically when they go log in, intend to sell once they log it in. Now, eligibility to sell, eligible to buy, now the eligibility of housing loan, everything is all there. Even the latest enhanced housing grant is also given there, and PHG. Now, all these things I'm going to elaborate more at the end of it. So here I'm going to skip very, very fast. All right, go through and read through them again. All right. Now, again, obviously, this resale portal 2018 basically is to also eliminate certain of the unnecessary or shorten the time frame from 16 weeks now to 8 weeks. All right, I will show you more later on as we go. Now, important over here, you need to know is that the pre-contract state before you enter into OTP. All right. The seller first and foremost need to register his intention to sell, right? And during this period when they register as intent to sell, you need 7-day cooling period. That means that after 7 days, then he can grant an option to the buyer. And one very important thing, the buyer must have registered their intent to buy in the HDB together. All right, without registering this, they can't. Now, one more very important thing, which I'm going to share with you as you go along the way. Now, obviously, you read the below, the buyer basically have to do the eligibility to buy, any housing grant, concession loans, and all these things. Now, the most important I highlighted in red here, concession loans, HLE application. All right, let's look at the next slide. Sorry, the bottom one, remember there's a white column there. Buyer intend to buy, all right, and they need to, first of all, need to obtain a HDB eligibility loan, that means HLE, before a seller can grant the so-called the option to purchase to the buyer. I stress this point is very important. A lot of agents forgotten. All right, if they intend to use HDB loan, it's a must. But if they're using bank loan, then they don't have the HLE, is okay. All right, so take note on this. Now, the process flow for a HDB resale portal, basically seller and buyer negotiate the resale price. Seller grant the option to OTP to the buyer itself. Now, at this point of time, as I said earlier on, you need to check that the buyer ensure that they have an intent to buy, they have a HLE. All right, if they're taking a HDB loan. If they're taking a bank loan, no need. Then buyer immediately within 24 hours need to submit a resale request to HDB. That will cost about $120 for them to request to HDB for the valuation report. Now, today valuation report is very fast. All right, within 3-4 days, they will send all the information to the buyer, not to the seller anymore. All right. Now, HDB inform buyer of the value, then buyer exercise the OTP. Now, buyer are given 21 days to exercise the OTP. During this period of time, the window is that the seller, the buyer basically, if they are taking a bank loan, check with the bank. When the valuation out sent to the bank will confirm whether how much you can borrow. All right, whether it's the valuation price or the purchase price, whichever is lower. Same applied to your CPF that you can use. All right. So this is what I said earlier on. Intend to sell any expiries and how long. Now, intend to sell and buy basically is 6 months. Sorry, if I'm not wrong, it's 1 year. 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. All right. So somebody asked a question, so I just answer here for those people who have asked. Now, so this is a confirmation for HDB. You have to pay $120. They will send a copy to you. But obviously, you need to scan in your option date and page 1, page 8. All right, and get the seller's detail. Obviously, through the agent, you can the contact number, email address, everything before you submit it to HDB under the resale portal. All right. Okay, I'm going to skip this quickly. So within 24 hours, remember it's within 24 hours, all right, after you receive the option to purchase from the seller. Okay, I'm going to skip quickly. Submitting of resale application, OTP and all these things. Okay, this is about, for sellers, buyer is $80. We don't buy 1 room, 2 room, unless you got clients who are buying 1 room, 2 room, then the registration fee is $40 to submit to HDB for all the processing, all right? Now, let me go through quickly the flow, the process flow in HDB resale portal. Sellers, buyers submit the application and uploading all the necessary document to HDB itself. Seller got seller document, buyer got buyer document. I take one scenario, a complicated case, like for example, somebody passed away, all right, left behind a house, and the family are selling you. No, so the family who are selling you, if they have a will, become an executor. If they don't have a will, become administrator. So make sure the administrator and executor is registered in HDB. Now, your lawyer supposed to send this information to the HDB branch office to update all this data. If it's not, you can go to the branch office and update your data before you can do the intent to sell, intent to buy, whichever. So far clear? Now, in your document submitting to HDB, again, you need to produce the date cert, notary public, sorry, not notary public. There is a letter from the lawyer that you need to submit it, all right, that you are the executor or the administrator, all right? And HDB will process all these documents. Obviously, your OTP need to be submitted and updated. Now, once HDB complete and all these applications accepted, HDB basically complete and send to seller and buyer. They have estimated the sales proceed for seller and buyer the financial plan and respective page on HDB resale portal. That means seller will have his own information, buyer will have information. So both seller and buyer basically need to confirm and acknowledge all these are in order. All right. Now, once HDB grant the resale approval and prepare for completion, so sellers and buyer will attend the completion appointment. Now, you notice that there is no more first appointment. All right, straight go to, once all your documents are in order, HDB will give you the estimated date of completion. All right. Now, today, why people still need to go to HDB for completion reason, because it's a legal document which requires the wet ink. All right, and it will be transferred between property from sellers to the buyer's name. All right, all this will be done by HDB officer. You need to go into the resale portal and update all the information and acknowledge. Now, if there are 4 buyers, then all the 4 buyers need to go there to update it, all right, acknowledge it. Now, what happens if you are taking a grant near to your parent? Your parent need to go in also, log in your SingPass and say that, yes, I agree that I need to stay within this 4 km for the next 5 years after my son and daughter bought this HDB flat. If you're applying those subsidy grants itself, all right? Now, this is the resale portal, very basic one. I'm going to touch and go. All right, buyer and seller need to register. I'm the buyer, I'm the seller, basically inside here, and click. But if you are the executor or the administrator, please click properly that you are administrator and executor and don't do it wrongly. All right. If once you do wrong, you have to call HDB to reset for you. Otherwise, all their record is all there. All right. Now, to click whether you are a buyer or seller, very important. Then you start this registration. Intend to sell, intend to buy. Now they will ask you, okay, welcome to HDB resale portal, this and that. So again, I told you about the buyer sellers, who you are. Please register properly. Now, at this point of time, your seller and buyer need you most to help them to do all this registration, because they really pay you. They really don't know, or they may know better than you, because if you have never entered this before. So please be familiarized with what you're supposed to do and guide them properly. All right? They need their SingPass. Especially if you are handling with old folks who don't have SingPass, make sure you get the SingPass for them. They can go down to any of the CC, no need to go down to CPF board. CC, they can able to do it for you. All right? So for those who are doing HLE application or applying a grant, so certain of this information over here, you need to be familiarized with it. So those are self-employed, minimum you need 6 months. All right, your past contribution, CPF and all this. But those who are employed, basically 3 months based. All right. Now the buying process, I want to go it very quickly. Basically, as a buyer, basically you need to understand why you need to submit all your documents. And HDB will basically say that, okay, all your documents are in orders, within 7 working days, all these documents are in order. They will acknowledge and tell you. But if you have any information they are not familiar, all right, basically they need classification and all these things, you can write to HDB under the resales at mailbox HDB.gov, and please print and copy of the page. All right. So far clear? Okay, let's move on. Now, all buyers and seller documents by logging into the HDB resale portal using their SingPass. So no physical signature required at this moment. The SingPass is the most important. They will ask you for all these documents. They ask them to read through and acknowledge, right? You see the box that's been ticked, that means you already acknowledge. Now, if there are 5 buyers, I told you, oh, sorry, 3 buyers or 4 buyers, all the 4 buyers must do all this, all right? Now, finally, obviously, the resale application approved by HDB, and there you go. And you go for your completion appointment. All right. Now, for the seller, same thing. You need to register your intent to sell. Basically, after 7 days later, then you can grant the option to purchase to your buyer. At this junction of point, I want to remind our agent, do not post-dated your date. Like for example, today you register intent to sell and you start marketing and the buyer come along. Hey, I want to buy, I like your house. I give you $1,000. They give you, offer you a check immediately. Do not grant a post-dated date. Tell them come back by 7 days. All right, it's still open to everybody. All right. So intent to sell, very simple. You just need to register all your, particularly there are 3 sellers, you have to register all them. All right, part 1 to part 3 quickly. All right. Now then, later on when you submit the document to HDB, confirm that by the flat seller, resale application forms, and acknowledge the home improvement plan if there be any home improvement plan. All right. Now then, confirm the flat seller's information resale. Oh, this is just now the debrief. Okay. Next, for example, the application of the flats detail, like for example, the block number and all things, you have to key in the resale number, the case number, the reference number, all will be given to you. Or once HDB approved your application. All right, so take note about all these reference number, they are important. Let's move on. Now, you will receive, basically buyer and seller will receive a acknowledgement from the HDB. Your case has been approved, all right, and follow the date as accordingly. Now, obviously, nowadays, agent need to remind the sellers. There are a few things they need to do as a sellers. Probably you will want to know all this beforehand. Though you need not to go down to first appointment, but you need to prepare certain preparation. Take, for example, you need to bring your sellers to go down to the town council to pay the final bill. All these bills and information will be printed out once they acknowledge, all right, and confirm before completion. So you get all these things done 1 week before completion. Next is that the HDB officer, during the submission of your case to HDB, within a week or 2, HDB branch office officer will come and inspect the space. Take for example, the windows, the aircon, the renovation, make sure all these are valid. But obviously you don't do this when they come to inspect your house, right? But before you sell the house, you should ask the seller, is there any illegal renovation? Is your unit window been fixed? Did any officer come and inspect your house before the last 5 years, 10 years? By right, every 5 years, we need to engage a contractor to inspect your house. But most of us don't do that until we sell the house, right? So you need to do a declaration of the retrofitting of your window, especially those casement window that you can, you need to have a stainless screw to be mounted on it instead of the last time, the old type, the rivet type. All right. So take note of some of these things that may affect your resales timeline. So once you have the completion date, probably some of the useful information that how to maintain the windows, you have to pay your final property tax. All right, thing to do before moving house, change address. As an agent, you need all this information to assist your sellers or your buyers. All right. Now, here I'm going to spend a bit of time here to illustrate some of the pictures that are in summarized. Basically, in a past practice that we have in a resale procedure before the resale portal 2018 started off, the previous one is about 16 weeks. Now it's only 8 weeks. All right, there's only 1 appointment, no more 2 appointments. All right. Now, some of this flow is basically the buying process for a buyer when agents need to guide them. And this guiding them, I think, is important. All right. First of all, you need to check on their eligibility to buy. Why they need to buy? Under what circumstances they buy? Whether are they buying fiancé scheme, or with parents, or their divorce cases? All this you need to find out. Then do a very basic financial planning for them. After they sell, can they buy? Or they are first time buyer, what type of grant do they able to enjoy? All right. So look at the type of flat they are looking at, whether can they afford, cannot afford. So you have to do your homework and do all your checking necessary. Obviously, once all this been done, then you go and look for a flat. Once you find a suitable flat, all right, obviously you need to negotiate with the sellers, the timelines and all these things. The seller would tell you, I want extension of stay. Then how? The buyer bought the flat but have extension of stay. What is extension of stay? Your buyer must understand. That means they have to give the seller 1 month to 3 months to continue to stay there upon completion. And yet, the buyer is paying the installment every month, paying the town council. So you must tell them the obligation and how you go about to claim, all right, back from the seller. Then obviously, you need to submit a valuation request when you have received the option to purchase. Remember, I told you 1 day, 24 hours upon receiving the OTP. All right. Now, complete the resale checklist. No more checklist for us. Basically, now it's called the intent to sell, intent to buy. So this number 6 have been obsolete. So you have to just remember before you even go and buy, register the intent to sell, intent to buy. Then if they are taking HDB loan, all right, make sure they have a HLE. All right. If not, then you're going to have problem later on. Now, exercise of option to OTP basically is given 21 days, as you know. But before the 21 days come along, there are a lot of things need to be done. All right. Submit for valuation. After valuation, you have to submit to the bank. If you are taking a bank loan, the bank will grant a letter of offer to the buyer. All right. So obviously, you submit the resale application. Now, upon this point, later I'm going to share with you. A lot of agents may not know how to submit the resale application. Do you know the agent can do it on behalf of your seller and your buyer? But many of them are not ready, right? So you normally come back to office, ask the admin girl to help you, and you pay extra $10. But before you submit this resale application as an agent, you need to fill up all the form, all the necessary information, and scan in the information that is needed, that required by HDB. Now I'm going to cover this later on as I go along the way. All right, let me go skip to the next slide. Now basically over here, he talk about this one. I purposely scanned it in for you with a clearer picture. Now, if you really need some of this slide, I can give it to you. The last few slides that I have here, I can give it to you. Just let me know. I will summarize it. Then I will give it to Deborah. Then you can get it from her. All right. These picture procedures are good for you to keep so that you understand what did the seller need to do, what did the buyer need to do. All right. I don't want to go into very detail. Basically, as I say that HDB have a set of rules and guidelines. So just look into it and it may help you more for the seller as well as the buyer itself. All right. Now, this is the procedures to apply a HLE. All right. So prepare some of the soft copy of income statements and all this. All right. Detail, I want you to go through it yourself. You have the slide. You can go through it yourself again. All right. What you need to be, remember the earlier on I told you, if you're self-employed, all right, you need 6 months. So basically these procedures and these informations are all in the website itself under the HDB itself. So I cannot ask you any question from now because I'm so used to asking. Say, hey guys, do you have any question for me? But later on, you can post all your questions in the chat itself. I do my best to give you 10 to 15 minutes to ask me all these questions. I know many of you have questions. All right. So whether are they eligible for the housing loan now? The HDB loan basically are able to give you 2 subsidized loans. If you have taken 2 subsidized loans, then you are not qualified for HLE anymore. But this having to say that there are some needy family who still need the 3rd time loan. Then it's a special case. But if you are taking a 3rd time HDB loan, no more subsidized. It's about 3.1 something %. It's very high. And I understand that HDB currently is reviewing their interest rate. Current interest rate is 2.6%. All right. For bank loan, it's about 1.8, 1.9. So in long run, bank loans give you more saving. All right. So I will skip this quickly for HLE application. Now, this is a very important thing that I want you to learn. Previously, we have this called the special housing grant and additional housing grant. The qualification a bit tightened, but today they have combined this called the enhanced CPF housing grant, which is 80,000. All right, and I hope with these pictures file that I'm going to give to you, you can make good use of it to understand the need, how they can qualify. And these are especially for those maybe newly married or those families who are not so rich, but the first time they're applying a house or BTO flat or even resale, they are qualified for this grant. Please look through them. Already started in 11 September 2019, all right? So I will not elaborate more on this, but they are qualified. Please help them. So I give you one very quick example. Okay, average household income previously was below 5,000. Now for a family is 9,000. For single is 4,005. Right, a 4-room BTO flat with 99-year lease. All right, the enhanced housing grant for this family is 45,000, which is a lot of money. Now, a second flat they're going to buy is a resale flat with 70-year lease balance. So they qualify also 45,000. I give a very simple example. A 4-room flat also resale with only 60 years, but this couple is 32. So it's below 95. So they only qualified for 40,000. Don't ask me why and all this calculation. I can't give it to you now. You're going to do it to very detail. You're going to take a lot of time. I'm only given 1 hour, all right, to cover all this to share with you so that you have more time to ask me more questions along the way, all right? Now, this is the chart again to tell you under which salary income in the household itself, you qualify how much for the family as well as single, all right, on both sides itself. So this chart is for you to use it, keep it, use it wisely for your own and to your client itself, all right? The enhanced CPF housing grant, which you are entitled to. Total is 80,000 combined with small special housing grant and additional housing grant together. Whether you're buying a HDB resale, you're buying a BTO, you qualify for this, all right? Now, today you know that the income ceiling have changed. Family is 14,000 and for the individual single is 7,000, all right? Obviously, if you want to enjoy this grant, make sure that you do not own a private condominium, all right? Earning more than certain amount. Obviously, you want to apply an EC, all right, now have increased to 16,000 per month. EC is still under HDB, yeah? Same thing go to DBSS, all right? Now, this one I downloaded from 99.com. It's talking about all the grants that you can enjoy. So as agent, you know very well that your job is to help your buyer to secure a house and all type of grants that are entitled to them. Make sure you're familiar with them. All right. So this is a summary, the whole page for you. You can have this for yourself too. The enhanced housing grant, the family grant, proximity housing grant. From obviously the single is 10,000, but if the parent is going to stay with them, is 15,000. All right. And for the couple, the proximity housing grant is 30,000. From 20,000 to 30,000. Reason is the parents are staying with them. All right. Then the family grant, you know that very well. For couple, basically they enjoy 50,000 if they buy 4-room and below. If they buy 5-room, only 40,000. For single, it's half of them. All right, they're buying 5-room, they only get 20,000. But buying 4-room and below for single, you get 25,000. So far, so clear? All right. Same thing go to the enhanced housing grant. Half of the qualification is 4,500 for single, 9,000 for the family. All right. Now is a question time where always agents are encountered with some problem. So I'm going to give you some illustration on this. How does agent allow? Okay, there's a bit blocked over here, the question. Okay. Now that all this resale application could be some of the questions that you have in your mind. All right. Can I request a valuation report or submit the resale application for my client? The answer is what? Yes, the salesman can continue submit the resale application or request for valuations and resale service under the agent toolkit. Now this under the estate agent toolkit, basically under agency, you need to subscribe. But there's also a portal that is for agents like you and me. Like my client don't know how to submit the resale portal 2018. Can I submit for him? Yes. Can I request a valuation report for them? Yes, agent can do. If you are the agent that representing them, you can opt to this option and submit. And you have to use your sync pass to log it in. Let me show it to you. All right, and go into the link. Because you know what? Every day or alternate day in 1 week, at least 2 or 3 calls from our agent from Orange Team will call me. Hey, Jonathan, can you do this? Can you help me? Can you explain to me? Now, I'm going to show it to you. This is an online submission for resale application for agent. Instead of your client, seller, or your buyer going to the resale portal. Okay, now you have to scroll all the way down. You saw this? Request for value. You can do it for your client. And also you can submit the resale application for your client. This is the portal link whereby you can do it for your client, with seller or buyer. So far clear? Okay, let's go back. So agent, you are able to help your sellers or your buyer to submit this request as well as the resale portal. You can submit for them, but not using the resale portal, using this agent app. All right, the link that I show it to you. I will give you this FAQ also. All right. Just hold on. Okay, it's stuck at the SAQ. Okay. Now, question 2. When my buyers have the financial institute letters of offer, obviously the financial institute give you an offer is only upon your valuation report is out. All right, except obviously they want to see your OTP, but they can't give you the so-called the loan from the financial institute or the banks. Reason because they need to look at your valuation report. So once you have your valuation report, you give to them with all your other supporting document, they were able to give you the letter offer. Now, this is very important. Without the letter offer and acceptance by the bank or the HLE, this is one of the documents required before you can exercise the option on the page 8 itself. All right, buyer, take note. All right, so you need to, obviously you have your buyer intend to buy, your valuation report, and the letter of offer from the bank or the HLE before you can exercise the option. Then you have to sign on the page 8, the buyer column, then the agent will be the witness. All right, let's move on. Now, question 3, how do I submit a pair of so-called under the resale portal? Just hold on. A contract case. Now, contract case is a bit complicated if you are not familiar with resale portal itself, buying and selling. So you will be very confused. So if you are not familiar with contract case, please kindly approach somebody to help you. All right, take a look at it and also review the timeline. I'm going to cover a bit very quickly on the timeline as we go along. All right. Now, a contract case is basically involve 3 parties, right? A contract party, resale party, and the buyer party. So at all time, only one party can do a contract. But if you are doing a contract, make sure you are using HDB loan or no loan. if you are the contract party, you cannot use bank loan. All right, the HDB cannot handle bank loan because it's a third party already. All right. So here is some of the information that required. You must not be an undischarged bankrupt if you are doing contract facility. All right, unless there are special cases like this, you have to approach HDB how they can help you. All right, I'm going to skip very quickly over here. So obviously you're using CPF from your OA accounts and all these things, and cash proceeds and your calculation. All right, in the contract facility itself. Now, question number 4, how is the date of acceptance of resale application determined? All right, it means that when you submit all your document to HDB, remember earlier on in your registration, right? So how HDB provided all your documents are in orders. All right, once HDB receive all your complete resale application of the flats, seller and buyer they have to verify all the eligibility, HDB verify, but having to say that HDB actually already know before even you enter to this state, whether are you eligible to buy or sell, correct now? So with all your supporting document, HDB will go through it and they will acknowledge, all right? Then once they acknowledge, they will give you 8 weeks, all right, for completion date. Now, any delays of all this documentation will result to your other supporting documents delay, will delay your completion subsequently. Now, if a flat bought sold for 3 buyers, then all the 3 buyer member earlier on I told you all need to endorse the document, all right? All party, so they have to have a sync pass to log it in. Now, question 6, are the administrators and executor able to endorse the resales documents on the HDB? Remember, I told you the administrator, executors. Administrator is when there's no will, all right? Then there's a will, executor. All this can be endorsed once they update their data into the this HDB branch office before you can even register intent to sell, intent to buy. Correct now? So as long as the administrators, all these have a sync pass and also registered with HDB. Now, what will happen if the other party fail to endorse and resale documents after the expiry of this date? Now, if any delay due to whatever, maybe supporting document, this and that, not properly done, at the end of the day, the completion date will be delayed further, right? So any party fail to endorse, given the deadline, the resale completion date will be revised and extended, all right? And a new SMS and email will be sent to both parties, seller and buyer, for the revised completion date. Do buyer and seller need to attend the resale completion appointment? Yes, they need to attend unless they're using a bank loan, all right? Then the lawyer will represent you on that. If not, you need to be there, all right? How does sellers and buyer apply for temporary extension of stay? Yeah, very important. During this junction of time, before the OTP is being issued, both seller and buyer must know that the seller need the extension of stay, and this must be told before the OTP are signed and grant to the buyer, and not after that. Then you want to say, hey, I need extension of stay, I want to approach my buyer. The buyer may not agree to you. Now, not forgetting, this extension of stay need to be stated when you submit the case to HDB for registration and pay the $80. So during that time, you need to declare that there's an extension of stay, because one of the questions asked, is there extension of stay given to the seller? So all this will compute. Once you compute this thing, I rush very fast. They will send the income and the property tax to the buyer, that they will be taxed as a rented flat like that, you know. That means there's no so-called, they take away all the rebate, and the tax is not 4%, it's 10% of the annual value. All right, so bear in mind on this. Now, in the event that sellers have want to stay for this extension of stay for 3 months, during these 3 months, the seller will continue to stay there, but the buyer will have to pay for the installment and the conservancy. But all these things you can claim back to the sellers. So between sellers and buyer agent, please take note of this. Make known to both seller and buyer who's supposed to pay what and claim back, including the admin fee, including the property tax that the buyer need to pay. to let the seller stay inside the house, the seller must reimburse back to the buyer. All right. I'm going to skip this quickly. All right, for you. Now, question 10, if there any penalty for the late completion if the completion is delayed due to one party willfulness? That means intention to delay, purposely delay. In that case, yes, then they have to pay for a penalty. All right. But obviously, both parties allowed to extend the completion date due to whatever reason. One very common factor encountered by one of my agents and told me of illegal renovation by the seller. And HDB want them to rectify the fault. So it may take 1 month, 2 month delay. So in this case, the seller need to compensate the buyer for the delay because the buyer may be renting a flat or have no place to stay, have to stay outside. In this case, he can claim back to the seller. All right. Now I have all the slides for the OTP. The agent need to know an important note to read. Now I will not go through this anymore. I rather want to spend time with you to answer some of your questions. All right, can I leave these important notes for you to read yourself? I'll ask Deborah to send it to you. After I do all the summary, I send it to Deborah. Deborah will send to you. All right. I'm going to stop the slides ready, all right, for you.